folks, welcome to the podcast. This is Peter Hawley. Teaching in the Arts is my podcast. Thank you for coming back. Double header day today, something new on the podcast. Three guests into two halves, but all talking about Free Spirit Media, which is a great nonprofit organization here in Chicago. Jeff McCarter, the founder and head of Free Spirit, is my first guest. We talk about the journey of Free Spirit from this little nonprofit doing hoops high in the early 2000s to now 17, 18 years later, being this really much bigger organization, really helping a lot of people in the south and west sides of Chicago. And then two teachers in Free Spirit Media, Brandon Johnson and Shay Rogers, come and talk, and they had to get in and out because they're teaching today, and they're running back to a class as I speak right now. And we have a great talk about what it's like to teach these students and the hope they give them and the voices they hear and things like that. And stay tuned for that in just a minute. So the lesson of the day is this. I had this really interesting upbringing. I went to private schools my entire life. In fact, actually all of the colleges I went to in grad school were private universities as well. But from Montessori to when I graduated high school, I went to school every single day with my dad. My dad was the head of my school in many cases. He was the head of my high school in some cases. I had him twice, once in seventh grade for algebra and once as a junior in high school as my physics teacher. And I went to these private schools, and they were good schools, and I got a good education from that. Yet they were predominantly white, especially when I went to school in Kentucky. When I moved to Chicago, it was much more of a mixed race school, which was really great, and it was an eye-opener for me, and I really appreciated that. But then I went away to college, and I went to Boston University for a year and then Northwestern University for my final 3 years, and it was frankly segregated. I mean, you'd go to the dining hall, and here are the white students, here are the Asian students, here are the black students, and you know, it was just groups, and it was really, really sad, and almost all of the classes I had were with other white students. All from sort of the suburbs of the big cities, New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, Edina, outside of Cleveland, LA, San Francisco. And we were all kind of alike in some ways, and that was really, really cruddy. And then 10, 11 years after I graduated, I got my first teaching job at Columbia College in Chicago. And it was great because, as I said jokingly, it was like teaching at the United Nations. I suddenly had Asian students and Latino students and African American students, and it made the classes better. So I had gone through, 16 years of education with none of that. And then I started teaching, and I got all of it. And it was such a shame. I mean, I think my whole background would have been different had I had a more culturally diverse group of students to work with. And of course, you can't predict those things, and you can't change those things. But I'm really glad I got to teach in environments where I got to have these different kinds of students as my students. So actually that leads me into the talk today with Jeff and then Brandon and Shay, and that's all they do. They talk about a very non-diverse group of people, but a bunch of students who are really, really needed to be served, and I'm so glad Free Spirit Media is doing this. So here's my conversation with Jeff McCarter. So Jeff McCarter, welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
How are you?
I am well, a little underslept, but
that's going around.
Yes.
What? Now, thank you for coming up here, and you've got a meeting later, so we'll get you in and out. Hurry. But just give us the history, the overview, the 1,000-foot view of Free Spirit Media.
Sure. So I started Free Spirit Media back in 2000. It actually didn't get incorporated until 2001 as its birth date. But it began with a project, an experiment really called Hoops High, which was a sports broadcasting project of young people from the west side of Chicago operating cameras, doing audio, announcing games, and did a little experiment in the Park District at the Golden Dome in Garfield Park, and it got picked up over at the old Westinghouse High School. Mm-hmm. Westinghouse was a basketball power.
Sure.
The kids were amazing storytellers, really took to the technology, put it on cable access television, and Westinghouse was so good and so exciting. Before we knew it, we were building an audience in the thousands.
Wow.
And Westinghouse went on to win the city championship, then the state championship, our students were rock stars, I started turning down outside media work because that was my background as a media professional to pursue what became Free Spirit Media.
Wow. So let's go back just a little bit before. Why? Why did you want to do this? And what were you doing? You said you were a media professional. What were you doing? And then why this one-off with Hoops High?
Yeah, so I spent my 20s working in feature film, network news. I was on Backdraft with Ron Howard. I was on several Steven Soderbergh films. I was at ABC News in New York at the network and worked on hundreds of TV commercials, and then also developed into a documentary producer, director, cinematographer, and editor, all of which was amazing. Wonderful people, wonderful stories, but I also just had a critical lens on society, and I saw gaps. I saw the lack of diversity in the workforce and also really the lack of diversity in the content, and just felt like there was a disconnect, and media is so powerful, and I really wanted to engage more in community. And the reason Hoops High was because my passion and my hobby before my knees got destroyed was pickup basketball, and really going to courts on the west side, Garfield Park, Douglas Park, where I live, and just getting in games and getting to know people. And then one day my buddy Jesse and I were like, what if we married this basketball world with our media world and had kind of a youth and community focus? And that led to Hoops High, which was amazing. And then Free Spirit Media was more of a concept of like free spirit. Let's think big. Let's think about the power of media. Let's think about voice, and let's be open to the opportunities that come.
Now, you talked about your experience as a producer and working on all of these other projects, but you didn't have any experiences that I know of starting an organization, especially this grassroots, because it was kind of grassroots. How'd you learn?
Well, much like with filmmaking, a lot of experience, just like learn by doing. And in retrospect, there are some things I would have done differently. It definitely took longer than it might have if I had like studied the business of how to start a nonprofit, or even whether I should have started it as a nonprofit. You know, many years later, it's like, wow, this is a mountain to climb every year. The mountain gets higher and higher and higher as we've grown every year for 17 years. But, you know, it started 2000 with Hoops High was just passion and luck and a commitment to the young people. We didn't incorporate until 2001. We didn't apply for our 501c3 nonprofit status till 2002.
Wow.
We didn't position ourselves to receive a grant till 2003. So that was 3 years of me just using my savings and kind of hustling around. And, you know, my buddy Jesse, and then Rafi, who was our first employee, who had gone to Westinghouse, then Columbia College, then has moved on, and now he's the engineer for Medill's graduate program.
Wow.
You know, we just had a neat little team, but we were doing it for the love of the mission and believing in young people and the power of media.
Well, I mean, that's a great mission. Of course, that's one of the things I do here as well. So okay, you did Hoops High. You did that first experience. Then how did it grow, and what started happening after that?
Yeah, so all the while, you know, my passion besides basketball was really storytelling, and in terms of media, I definitely love narrative and scripted work, but I also love documentary. And so we started doing summer documentaries with a community organization called Umoja Student Development. And they were there on the west side. And we'd get a crew of young people together and take on a topic every summer. So one year was the history of North Lawndale, which is a fascinating community. We were all learning together and produced a really strong short documentary.
Were you teaching, for lack of a better phrase, or what was your role there?
Yeah, so in the early days, I was always teaching, helping with tech, you know, which those skills really helped a lot. And the fact that I also had cameras and an editing system and, you know, brought that stuff to the table, it was crucial access. But yeah, I was kind of wearing many hats, part teacher, facilitator, co-producer, collaborating producer, you know, teaching artist, technician, and then whenever the young people weren't around, trying to figure out what our plan was and how we were going to make this thing viable moving forward.
So okay, so you did this with Emoja, is that who they
Yeah.
were? How'd you hook up with them? Were you looking for partners, or you needed some connection, I think?
It was more organic, and they were part of just a movement of people working in the youth space. Early on, before starting Free Spirit, I volunteered with the group Street Level Youth Media, which is another leader in the youth media movement, which really is international movement of, it kind of traces back to independent media and just, the access movement of saying like, hey, media is powerful. People should be able to use it. And so I originally was introduced to Emoja through Street Level. Then as Free Spirit emerged, it just made sense to keep working with them. They were based in the North Lawndale community, as is Free Spirit Media.
So okay, so you at some point the snowball starts, and you're getting a little bit bigger and a little bit more known. When was a time in your brain where you noticed a change, where you said, hey, this is now something? It's not just a summer program. It's not just basketball season. It's something more. And then you got connected to CPS or whatever. I mean,
yeah. So I'd say 2004 was really a breakthrough for us in that we were out there working with young people, super grassroots, super organic. Just, there wasn't a funding source. It was scrappy.
How'd you keep doing it? I mean, that's a commitment. I mean, it's 3.5 years at that point. I mean, that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I would say, sometimes I think it's like starting a band or something, or making, your first documentary or something where the draw, it's always on your mind and you're pouring your creativity into it. And, I was fortunate that I had some savings from during my 20s. I worked on a lot of TV commercials and built a little nest egg. I squandered it through this, but that's okay, because it was really an investment in what was possible. But I'd say 2004, to your question of like a breakthrough, we had been really scrambling at the old Westinghouse, and it was a school that was kind of on its last legs, and we were down in like a little supply closet that we had built an entire control room into, and we were doing a 5-camera live to tape switch, replay audio, graphics, and we weren't getting a lot of love, partly from at least from the leadership that was willing to take the good, but not to really support the capacity that we needed to build to make this thing viable. The students were amazing. A lot of the teachers were amazing. The coaches were amazing. And a number of the leaders were supportive, but there was no money, and there was no like sense of this thing being sustainable. And a school that was playing in a game over at Westinghouse, like a little shootout, the students were like, they saw what we were doing and they told their coach, like, Coach, we need that at our school. And the coach came to me and said, hey, we're doing a showcase game, and this school, North Lawndale College Prep, was going to play another school at the United Center before a Bulls game.
Wow.
And they said, hey, could you ever come and shoot this game? I was like, great, yeah, we'll be at the United Center. That'll be a great experience for our young people, and sure, we'll do it. So we had our crew from Westinghouse come cover this North Lawndale game, and the leaders of North Lawndale College Prep saw our students and how engaged they were, and saw their students looking at our students and saying like, that's appealing, like, that's impressive. And they were, their mascot is the Phoenix, and they were kind of trying to rise from the ashes. They were a scrappy little school trying to make their way in North Lawndale, which is where I live, and it was kind of like a meant-to-be thing. And so one of the school's founders, John Horan, came to me, and our office was in my basement at this point on California Avenue, and he said, McCarter, you seem like a true believer. And I'm like, guess so. Yeah, I think I am. And he's like, what would it take to get you in our school? And I was like, oh. So at that point, I had 3 years of experience of knowing what we didn't have.
Uh-huh.
And I said, we would love to teach during the day
Mm-hmm.
and run classes, digital media classes and documentary and public service announcement and media literacy as a foundation for like the skills that can grow. We'd love to have a home for Hoops High eventually, like to move Hoops High and to work with your school. We would love to be in your budget in some form.
Ask for the money, Jeff. Ask for the money.
Yeah. And it was, the answer came back, after meeting with some other teachers and technology people and their board of directors and really making the case that we were the real deal. They said, let's do it.
Great.
And that was, 14 years ago. And that brought us to a point where I was able to start hiring a little team. It was still scrappy as could be. We taught during the day. I get to school at like 7 in the morning or 6:30 to prep things and teach like a full course load, then go do Hoops High at night. And then later at night, maybe there was a grant proposal due. I'd try to get that printed out and get it to the post office before 11:59 to get a date stamp on it.
So you got worked into North Lawndale's curriculum? I mean, how did that? I mean, were you part of CPS? I mean, what's
So
you were
it's a
teaching.
public school. It's a public charter school, so they had some more autonomy as far as what they can bring into their curriculum, but it's an arts course, so it's for a graduation requirement. It's arts elective credit, and as we've grown, we've brought in. I did not have an education background. I had a passion for education, but a background in the industry. As we've grown, we've brought in a really talented teaching team and people with credentials and certificates and a lot of experience in how to scaffold a curriculum. And we just are about continuous improvement.
Well, I mean, you've grown a ton, and we've got a couple of those teachers coming in right after you here, so we'll talk to them in a minute. So you get in, you're in with North Lawndale. What happened? I mean, we first met in about 2007 or 8, and you guys were up and running, and they were running classes, and I remember looking at stacks and stacks of tapes of probably Hoops High and other programs you did.
Right.
Just take us through the evolution of the whole Free Spirit.
So, yeah, sure. It's been a beautiful journey. It's very much, been, I've been a driver as far as just being very passionate about what we do, but much more than my drive is the young people showing us the way and really listening to their desire and their voice and, their ability to learn and tell stories and illuminate like underreported issues and really to get past a lot of the stereotypes. So we have a foundation in media literacy. So learning
that's really important.
It's crucial. Right. I mean, it's kind of a light bulb moment for young people in our classes and our programs, and it's a foundation because it essentially shifts a mindset from being kind of a gullible, passive consumer, not by any fault of anyone's, but that's just
pours
like
over
what
you,
the
comes
world
in your
does
living
to you.
room. Exactly right.
To being able to recognize messages and recognize what's behind them, and to deconstruct and think critically about the world around you, and in turn to become an empowered producer. And to tell stories in unique ways, and to tell stories that maybe are not being told or not being told in the ways that you think they need to be told. And so we've grown both in kind of the scope of media genres. So we still have Hoops High sports broadcasting. We still do documentary, public service announcement. We've done a lot with new media and emerging technology, and more to come there because it just keeps evolving.
Sure.
But we've also done more and more narrative film. We're now producing independent shorts that are of a more professional level. One thing that's been huge in terms of our growth is not stopping with just the teenagers, because for a number of years there, I'd have alumni of our programs that would reach back out and say, hey, Jeff, this is amazing what we got into. Can I get my old job on Hoops High back? Or can I get back in the summer crew and produce more documentaries? Those were the best jobs I ever had because we were partnering with After School Matters and the young people were receiving a stipend, and they still do. But those were oriented and designed specifically for high school kids. And I was like, well, really, we don't have that opportunity for you as a young adult now.
Yeah.
But they're essentially saying, well, I'm running into walls. I'm running into doors that are closed. And
yeah, so let's hold that thought for 1 second, because so when the students graduated from North Lawndale College Prep, do they go to college? Some do, some don't, of course. But
a good amount do. And North Lawndale has actually done really well and better than most in terms of enrollment and retention. Like their numbers are comparably very impressive. That said, it's no guarantee. If you're a first-generation college student from a family without resources.
They still have to pay to go to college at some point.
Yeah. Even if you get, we've definitely had young people receive Posse scholarships and get full rides to Denison and Carleton and,
sweet,
go and have many doors open to them. But that is not the norm. And a lot of young people would go and for either financial or cultural or academic reasons end up back in Chicago, maybe with college debt. Maybe they were
no degree and college debt. It's deadly.
It is really crippling, and it really is an issue that our society needs to grapple with. And it's part of what kind of showed us the way of, well, let's also look at options in Chicago, but maybe we need to build some. And so we've been inspired to build a whole portfolio of programming.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So you when did you start this push to really grow? I mean, you had been in North Lawndale, but then now you're much bigger than that.
Yeah, and we've grown. I always try to think of how to grow in a manner that's sustainable and manageable, because growth is hard, and it definitely, a team, it takes a toll on as you're adding to your workload, and from a financial standpoint, trying to find new support. And we've grown geographically some. We have a site on the south side, the Gary Comer Youth Center, that we started in 2006.
That's a great facility over there.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful. And but really, the growth in recent years and the decision to expand into the young adult space was again driven by young people and listening to their needs and their desires and their hunger for like what more was possible. And we had a strategic plan that we did. We called it Zoom back in 2013. And that plan was informed in part by our youth council, who were looking at their peers and themselves and saying, what would we want? And what they wanted was more internships, more advanced workshops, more connections to industry, some mentoring. And we had been experimenting with a social enterprise, which we call Free Spirit Pro, which is a whole nother like wonderful topic to get into.
We will.
But we realized that we actually had to open a framework for these young adults to do engagement in kind of a different way. And it just so happened it was perfect timing because the City of Chicago, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, and the Chicago Film Office, Rich Moskal, and that team was thinking, and along with the Chicago Community Trust, a wonderful funder that supported us and was supporting them, said, let's launch something that could be oriented to the creative economy and to these fields that are kind of under the radar, one for young people and also, in terms of workforce programming, it's usually oriented to like very well understood jobs, like in healthcare, logistics, transportation, those kinds of things. The creative economy is a little more nebulous. It's not like there's full-time employment all the time. There's a lot of freelance work. It comes and goes, and you might be on a show and getting paid well, and then the show's over and you're scrambling, and You might be doing your independent passion projects, trying to build those into more of a economically viable situation. And really, the part of the realization was, here are these young people, and Free Spirit, to be really clear, is working on the west and the south sides in communities of color and communities, mostly Black and brown communities of, the under-resourced communities, and where there's not a lot of access to these opportunities. And yet when people often are successful in these creative fields, they were drawn to go to LA or go to New York or go take a Kanye West, for example. He wasn't staying around Chicago to build himself here.
Right.
We were looking more at a Chance the Rapper model of, here's a young man who loves his community and wants to help foster the creativity and the next generation here. And so that's what we were able to build in partnership with the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, DCASE, the Chicago Community Trust, and our friends at Young Chicago Authors. We created an initiative called the Chicago Track. And the Chicago Track had a film and media path that Free Spirit led, and an audio and music path that Young Chicago Authors led. And,
is that the Louder Than the Bomb folks?
Yeah, that's the Louder Than the Bomb folks.
I know Kevin, yeah.
Yep, Kevin, and there's an amazing team. Rebecca, Mariah, just wonderful, wonderful people. And the Chicago Track really just became a feeder for connecting dots to industry. And so we did these large workshops, and we started to get more and more oriented to what's emerging, especially on the film and media side, to what's going on over at CineSpace Film Studios. And subsequently, we've developed community partnership with the CineCares Foundation. And so we have young people that are really engaging in what the film worker life looks like. And yet at the same time, we're also trying to foster what does a filmmaker or what does a media entrepreneur look like. So really looking at all those aspects.
Well, I think the media entrepreneur thing is really, really important. And what I was just about to say is the neighborhoods your students and others come from are so close yet so far from CineSpace. I mean, they can in some ways walk there, but there's no there. They can't get in. They don't even know what's going on there, and just have a portal into what's going on there and seeing that this is a possibility for them. And being on a set and watching others. You mentioned mentors a little while ago. I mean, they need to see a role model. They need to see someone who looks like them, is like them, doing it, so they can go, hey, I can do this thing.
Yeah, and it's been amazing. And, CineSpace is right there. And I live on California. It's 2 blocks from my house. It's remarkable to see the old Ryerson Steel facility come back to life. And we actually started engaging there back in 2009 and 10 as they were just getting started. Transformers 3 was filming in Chicago. And through the Chicago Film Office, we were able to put a group of young people with the blessing of Paramount Pictures and on that set. So we had young people that were actually getting hands-on real-life experience. And many of those young people have continued into the media profession.
That's
and
great.
In fact, one in particular, a young man named Jimmy Love, was part of our crew there. And he, I love this. We have a picture of our crew with Michael Bay at Rap one day on the LaSalle Street Bridge across the Chicago River. And that picture does not have Jimmy Love in it because he was in the back of the camera truck putting lenses and mags in such a way because he was so indoctrinated into that department. And then he continued to just pursue these relationships and worked on commercials and PA'd and then learned to grip and became a member of IATSE 476 and then learned more and more about the camera department. Now he's a member of Cinematographers Local 600 and is a regular kind of core crew on Chicago Fire.
Nice. And does he give back?
He gives back. He gives back in many wonderful ways. He's a mentor to the younger people. He's an advocate for the people who are coming up behind him. He's helping them navigate really a complicated ecosystem. It is not a linear
No.
one step,
Yeah, yeah.
next step.
Yeah, yeah.
And you'll run into, for many, many reasons, you'll run into roadblocks.
Mhm.
And those might be within your control and they might be outside of your
Sure.
control. And they may be about the media business, but they also might be issues of society. There's institutional racism everywhere.
Sure.
And you also have to be resilient and persevere and
Keep at it,
learn
keep at
and
it,
keep
keep
your
at it.
attitude
Yeah.
high and
Show up every day on time.
oh my gosh, yeah.
I know when I was talking to the folks at Cinecares, one of the issues through no fault of their own is it is hard to get around if you don't have a car, and public transportation does not make a straight line from some community to CineSpace. It's 3 stops or 2 different modes of transportation, and it's hard to get to work at wintertime at 6 a.m. in the morning until you work till 8 at night. And it's hard, but if the ones that
Exactly.
keep going are successful, and I hope guys like Jimmy show them just to keep doing it, whatever it takes to keep doing it.
Absolutely. And I'm so proud of Jimmy and so many more who have followed in his footsteps.
So in the time we have left, a couple of things I want to talk about. One, just sort of lay out for us what Free Spirit looks like now. You mentioned Free Spirit Pro. You've got a bunch of things going on, and then from there we'll talk about future.
Great. So just a few stats. We're 26 employees, mostly media crazy people who are
26.
Yeah,
Man.
it's a lot of wonderful people, a lot of mouths to feed from the fundraising side.
Mm-hmm.
And we're spread out across 6 locations, 4 in North Lawndale, the 2 North Lawndale College Preps, space at Stage 18 in Cine Space, and then our headquarters, which is in the Nichols Tower, the original Sears Tower.
Yeah, we've been there. It's great.
Yeah, where we now have 3 floors. So the media lab on the 11th floor was the original home of WLS Radio. The 9th floor is our Real Shy Youth Civic Media Lab for young adults. And then our headquarters, or our office admin, on the 5th floor. And then the Gary Comer Youth Center on the south side. And then in the West Loop, in the back of Media Process Group, we have our social enterprise production company, which we call Free Spirit Pro. And really, Free Spirit Pro is an advanced training ground. It's a place where students are employed. We look at young people on a journey. We kind of have 5 broad steps on the journey, from level 1, beginner, level 2, emerging, level 3, advanced, level 4, industry, level 5, trailblazer. Trailblazer, Jimmy loves the trailblazer because he is sailing and still giving back. But Free Spirit Pro is really about helping young people level up from level 3 advanced into level 4 industry, and then we can help them bridge into being trailblazers and being professionals on their own right. But Free Spirit Pro is also a business strategy. So it's a social enterprise where we're producing content for partners and clients, and we're doing a lot of promotional videos, web videos, event videos, a lot of PSAs, some event coverage, and more really thoughtful documentary production. So we've had a number of pieces on WTTW Chicago. We just had a crew in India producing a film, actually as part of a series we've done with this group called the Peace Exchange, where we've now done 4 documentaries where they've traveled. Young people from the West Side, from communities that have struggled with violence, have gone around the world to learn about how other communities and populations have learned from violence and have learned to counter it. So Southeast Asia, learning about mindfulness; Nicaragua, learning about recovering from their civil war; South Africa, post-apartheid, healing, reconciliation; and now India, learning about meditation and again more about mindfulness. It's just been a great journey, and then these pieces come back and the young people share them, which is really a huge part of what has always been the point, but more and more is a priority for us, is sharing these stories.
Well, so this film you're just talking about, so these are young people who had been in the Free Spirit Media program and they're sort of keep going, or there are other people who have joined up to Free Spirit Pro?
So it's a partnership. The Peace Exchange is this initiative that is going out and doing essentially learning and kind of exploring peace in the world, and then they want to bring it back to their communities in Chicago. And Free Spirit is their partner in that we travel. So we have 2 young filmmakers and 1 staff member who travel along, document the story, and
Wow.
come back and edit a really powerful
How
documentary.
do I get that shot? I want to do that.
It's pretty cool. I know. Well, hey, Chad Respalje, who leads the Free Spirit Pro initiative, he's been amazing on these trips, though.
He gets a little burnout probably.
Yeah, these 20-hour flights and going hard for 14 days straight. He probably needs a vacation from the experience.
So where can people see it or see these projects?
So we have a Free Spirit Media Vimeo page, so vimeo.com/freespiritpro, actually, in this case. We also have a youtube.com/freespiritmedia. We have a wonderful website that kind of ties it all together, freespiritmedia.org. We will, presumably, we have with the past Peace Exchange films, show that on WTTW.
Great.
I think we're also doing a community screening actually this month on March 22nd, Thursday, March 22nd at the Nichols Tower.
Oh, good. Great.
So that's an opportunity that's in the very near future. And
Great.
then we did a screening in partnership with WTTW at the Cultural Center on Saturday, April 21st. Though that film is actually, we're showing a few pieces that day, but the signature film that day is actually a short narrative piece produced by one of our alumni, Montel Williams. It's called Chosen for Life.
Huh.
And it's a wonderful 30-minute narrative piece about a young man on the West Side struggling with some decisions, and some things are not going right, but some lessons are learned.
Wow, great. Well, this will be out that week, so this will be out on the 19th, so the 22nd. Great. Good.
Okay.
So and we'll promote it. Goals, future. What's the future look like for you guys?
So again, listening to the young people, and what they're saying is we want to create more powerful content at a higher level and continue to scaffold up from beginner to trailblazer and support them along the way. So really high-level content creation that is really oriented to reaching audiences as well, and not just like organic shares, but really robust partnerships with media, really pushing content in ways that it's influencing the civic conversation, so that awareness is being raised and people are learning to kind of see this world differently and really affect narrative change, and because there are so many notions about what's going on in the West Side or the South Side of Chicago that are so misguided. And the belief we have is if you shine a light and let these young people speak their truth, you will see a different story. So quality content, big distribution, really strong scaffolding of skills. So a deep belief in the curriculum and our process, and always improving that. And really aligning it across our different portfolios so that everyone's speaking the same language, even if they're doing different forms of media, from journalism to documentary to narrative. Strengthening our model for sustainability. So, we've grown at about 15% clip every year for since we got past that first startup phase. So 14 years of just.
That's a lot of growth.
Intense
26
growth.
employees.
Yeah, 26 employees, a budget over $2 million. Wonderful support, but also we really want to just strengthen that core and then broaden our base.
So how can people help? I mean, yes, money is good, and we can promote it. I know there's an event coming up in April and another one in May, but what can people do? People listen, people who are part of want to help this move along.
Yeah, well, we are so grateful for the community that has embraced us, and it's been a broad community of people that love media for sure, and a lot of film and creative folks have been volunteers and mentors, and they've hosted people on job sites and really helped to open doors. We also have so many friends in the community, and just a huge variety of communities of people that believe in our mission and people that want to share resources and connections. We're always making documentaries, and so understanding what interviews we might achieve. Not so much hearing other people's ideas, though, but more opening doors to other people's networks. We want the young people to be the drivers of many of the ideas, except in the case of Free Spirit Pro, whereas if someone has an idea and a budget, we want to talk and deliver on that vision.
Right.
And then engagement, looking at our website, freespiritmedia.org, is really about engagement, and it's sharing the content, going there, looking at the pieces, and then sharing them on your network, sharing them on your social media, and then participating in our community events. And like we said, we've got the event in April. The big one coming up in May 31st, is Focus, and Focus is just a big fun party. Celebration of young people and their voice, and it's at a wonderful venue, the Ivy Room at Tree Studios. So Thursday, May 31st, 6 to 9 p.m. It'll be an awesome party.
Great. And at the end of the show, I'm going to plug the whole thing too. Jeff, it's been great. Thank you for coming by. I know you have a meeting, but coming up right after you, we've got two teachers who are going to fill in some gaps on this.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Great.
Peter, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks. That's my talk with Jeff McCarter. Jeff, thanks for coming by. You're a busy guy. He's off to do some fundraising and some other Free Spirit Media things. But now coming up is Brandon Johnson and Shay Rogers from Free Spirit Media. Shay is a former student at Free Spirit Media. Now she's a teacher there, and Brandon is a teacher there. And we talk about what it's like teaching at North Lawndale College Prep. And this is my discussion with them right now. So, Shay Rogers, Brandon Johnson, welcome to Teaching in the Arts. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us.
So you guys are both teachers at North Lawndale College Prep in the Free Spirit Media program. How does all that work? I mean, you're teachers at the school, you work for Free Spirit, you work for the school. Tell me about the setup.
We work for Free Spirit Media, but we're contracted to NLCP, and we kind of go through life as a NLCP staff member, but our primary employer is FSM.
Okay. So what do you guys teach? What are you teach? I know sometimes you co-teach, but you teach your own classes. What classes are you guys teaching right now?
We do intro to digital media, or media literacy type. Then it's advanced digital media, and it's senior doc. And we just started a graphic design program that we're doing now.
And Shay, you were a student before you became a teacher. What was that process like when you were a student there? Did you know anything about media? How did you get into these classes?
So I started off in North Lawndale. I don't know how I started out. Excuse me, but
you were just a high school student and you got it was an elective you had to take or something like that?
Yeah, it was an elective. The digital media class was elective, and basically I kept taking the class. I took their intro level and their advanced, and then I ended up in their senior doc class. And through that, I produced my own documentary called called Prisons, Reducing Crime or Restricting Civil Rights. And ever since then, I've just been growing with Free Spirit Media.
And you went to India as well, right? You Jeff was telling us,
Yeah.
What happened?
Once I went through their classes through North Lawndale, I joined their pro crew. So it's their social enterprise of Free Spirit Media. And basically clients hire us to make their pieces or like their advertisements or PSAs that they need. We've done a couple with WTTW and CPS. And I've been to South Africa with Free Spirit Media, and I just came back over winter break from
India?
Yeah.
Wow. That's really amazing. We'll come back to these stories in a minute. So Brandon, you just joined Free Spirit in the summer, right? I mean, this is your first school year there.
Yeah.
What's your background? How did you get there? Had you taught other places?
Yeah. When I graduated from college, I worked for a newspaper for a while. Wanted to do something to help the community. So I took a job at Collin Academy. And at the time, I don't remember her name, but there was this lady, and she worked for Hoops High, and they were all doing stuff with the cameras and whatnot. And this is like 2008, so I applied for a job at FSM, didn't get it. The next year I applied and didn't get it, and I just applied every year. When finally, I got the call back, and I was very, very excited to come and join and actually teach something I was passionate about and really believed in.
So what's your background? Before we got in here, you were talking, you went to Roosevelt, you're from Chicago. Talk us through up to when you started. Where are you from?
So I studied digital media at Curie, went to Roosevelt. I was going to do journalism, but had a counselor talk me out of it. And so I went in and did English. I did work for a newspaper for a while, a few community centers I worked with, until I landed a job with Collins Academy High School. I worked as a special education advocate. I did that for 10 years.
Wow.
On the side, I was working for this company called Creative Architect, where we did digital media strategies for different companies, which then pushed me to go back to school. Went to Full Sail and studied media design, and then I finished my master's with that one. And then in about 2016, I applied for the job at FSM, didn't get it. So in the summer, I saw the job was still open, so I applied one more time, and that's when I got my interview and was able to come on board.
I mean, you were rejected or turned down or didn't get the job a whole bunch of times, and you kept at it. That's a lesson. I hope you teach your students that, keep at it,
Yeah, I mean, you get rejected a lot. Like, I probably should have talked about, but I did some time with Apple, and they turned me down like so many times. And, but you just learn that, one, they'll notice you eventually. You just got to keep on sharpening your craft and keep working at it. And we try to get that to the kids as well, to understand that it's not about winning every time. You're going to fail, but learn from that and become better. And so we try to get that to them.
Great. So Shay, you were a student. What was the experience like? Did you see when you were you a freshman when you started the Free Spirit program there?
Yeah, I was a freshman.
Okay. So what did you think you were getting into? Did you see yourself having a career and a future? Did you see yourself going to South Africa?
That's crazy because no, I didn't think. I just thought we were going to be dealing with the camera and I'm going to be taking selfies every day because I used to take like mad crazy pictures of myself, and then that's why I was like, oh, they have a digital media class. Okay, we can take more pictures of me. And then I got in there and it was like, oh no, we're filming. We're going to start making PSAs and commercials, and I was just like, okay, this is pretty cool. I never thought I can do this with the camera, or like I just fell in love with it, and I was like, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep like pursuing this because it's something new. It's something new. I never learned about like how the film industry goes, and then that just really opened up another horizon for me. So,
what? No, you teach as well.
Yeah, I teach it now. At the same class I learned it in, I teach it now. So,
what are your students like, and how are you as a teacher? I mean, you're not that much older than the students.
No, I'm not.
So what is it like to suddenly be teaching this curriculum, this class, this program that you were taking? How did you learn how to do that, and how do you find your students? What are the students like?
So I just think back on the teacher that I had taking digital media class, Samantha Spencer. Like I look back on her and she's an amazing person. I've also worked on set with her web series, but that's another story. But I just think back on like how she was so cool with the students, and she was just like understanding, and she was just on our level. Like even though she wasn't our age, but she was able to connect with us, and I just felt like that's what really helped me be the teacher that I am today. I can relate to my students. I can help them get through problems that they're going through. I can help them express themselves through film, and I think by me being close to their age, I can relate extremely.
Sure.
Like,
so can you tell us, maybe both of you, it's not going to be, it's not a tennis match. I talk to you and then I talk to Brandon, and there's you and Brandon. Yeah. So you can interrupt each other and interrupt me. What are the North Lawndale students like? Can you describe North Lawndale? I mean, this people are listening to this in England and Canada and Austria and India. They don't know from North Lawndale necessarily, though a lot of people, of course, are listening from here in Chicago. What's North Lawndale like? What's the community like? What are the students like? And then talk about some of the successes and challenges.
So North Lawndale community, North Lawndale School is based on peace. So they basically try to do everything in their power to just bring a peaceful atmosphere to the community. The community itself has its own struggles, like most communities as well, but it's growing, I should say. What do you say, Brandon?
North Lawndale does have its issues. So a lot of our kids have experienced some type of trauma.
Yeah.
But they're really good kids, and they have their own stories to tell. So our job is really like to try to motivate them and create a safe zone for them. And that's sometimes what we emphasize more than anything is that this is a safe zone. Share your ideas.
And then it's just we also try to push them to help them tell their story, to get their their thoughts out in the streets. Because, some people don't really listen to the youth. And by them having a chance to get to media, use the media, cameras, audio, podcasts, blogs, all that, to just tell their story and reach out to other students or other youth that's going through what they're going through, or just to bring each other together, that's something we try to push.
And we're like them. We're both products of North Lawndale. We both grew up in the area. She's close in her age. I'm the old man. But they know that we're authentic. We don't put on any
sugarcoat nothing to them.
Yeah, and so I think that they know that we're there. And the funny part about it is that like we have kids who have never even met us who want to now come and try to hang out with us. We're like, no.
You're like, yeah, can we come in your class? Why we didn't get this class? They didn't put this on our schedule.
Yeah, I'm an introvert, so like once the class is over, it's like, okay, I need time now. No.
And I'm just like, come on, let's talk.
But that's really great. I mean, I've said on this podcast many times that students need role models. They need people that look like them, feel like them, teaching them, having jobs that they can aspire to get out there. And I think that's one of the great things Free Spirit does. And I'm sure that if I was a student of yours and I saw you and you look like, hey, I could do what she's doing or I could do what he's doing, as opposed to if I was the teacher, there's just a gap there. There's a divide, and that's a shame. And that happens for everyone all over the country, and we have to break down those walls and those barriers and say, hey, yes, you can do that. And what you said, Shay, a moment ago about students sharing their own stories and telling their own stories, I think is really, really important. Can you give an example? Like how do they do it? I mean, make a personal documentary. How are they sharing their own stories?
So some pieces we do audio pieces. So basically just they're recording, like they write a poem.
Storytelling.
Pretty much storytelling. They find their music, or if we do like a public service announcement, PSAs, and if they feel like, oh, bullying is an issue, or if like the high school dropout rate is an issue, they will make a PSA on how like it can be better or what can be done. So it's various ways of how we ask them to express themselves.
Yeah. They have many opportunities. We do at least 4 to 5 projects where they get to talk about those things that's important to them. So,
and then we also do like fun projects too, just like if they want to do like a short narrative or something like that, we also do that as well.
So you have students that are from freshman to senior year of high school?
We had them. Right now we're focused primarily with seniors. But in the past semester we had freshmen through juniors.
Actually, freshman through senior. Yeah.
So, and this is an elective for them, so they have to opt into this. They don't have to take these.
Well, I mean, everyone has to have at least one art
elective
on there. So, I mean, it does feel that, but when they go into like level 2, level 3, and so on, it's an elective, and they choose.
Jeff mentioned something about media literacy, which I think is really, really important, and that students get exposed to media literacy early in the program, and then they can turn around and use it and as an effective producer. Describe the media literacy program classes. What sort of things are they learning, and what do you have to teach them about media?
I mean, the big thing about media is that one, to be a media is about communicating a message. So we want to go through the purpose of media, and want them to understand that when you're watching media, what is the message that they're trying to give you? And so through going through that part, we start going through like the different what we call the isms.
Well, first you have to say like the different forms of media first, and then we go to the isms.
Yeah, well, I'm serious. There are different forms of media that it's there's print and there's
Social media.
social media. There's podcasts, radio, television.
An important part about that, because I did miss that, is that like, they some don't even realize like social media is a media.
Yeah.
Even
though
like,
the word is right in it.
Yeah.
They were like, so you mean like Snapchat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was just for selfies. No. So,
well, that is a lesson right there.
Yeah.
And that they're putting this image out there or story of themselves, as you use the Snap Story feature, and that people are commenting on, and they're making a public persona, whether they know it or not. Shay, you even said as we started, you said you were taking selfies all the time and things like that. But that adds up to something. So okay, continue. So
yeah. I mean, like, so when we go through maybe about 2-3 days just going through like the different types of media. And it's really funny because like the things that they don't know,
Yeah.
it's part of media, books, magazines. They be like, "How's that part of media?" Because they think media is like TV, radio, news. They get the blatant ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you go through that part, you start really going to like trying to break down the different messages and like how they market to certain demographics. And you go through the isms. And
What are the isms?
So the isms is like sexism, racism, hetero.
Isms.
Yeah. So those are like we call them isms because it's just like so many of them.
There's 7 of them, and like you'll see like certain kids gravitate towards different isms because they feel like
they can probably connect more with this one, or they can have a bigger message for this one. So it goes all together like that. And basically, once they learn the isms and the different types of isms in the media, we show them like some commercials, or we show them like some magazine pictures, anything that has like a ism in it, or sexism, racism.
I mean, like the big thing is like the media literacy part is for them to be able to deconstruct and understand what is the message that the media is putting out there. Not just about them, but about people in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go from there, like saying now, respond to that, like make something that, responds to that issue. Like, women can do science. Maybe they might do a podcast about women doing science, or something like something to show that something that they can take pride in and show that, that they are better than what was perceived of them.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So then they're taking what you've taught them in this media literacy part of the class and then turning it into media itself.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really cool.
And a big, at the actual definition that we use is turning passive consumers of media into active, which means that they're able to create their own. And, so that's what we really try to push for them to do is create their own and put their own story out there. Stop letting someone else tell their story for them.
Yeah. Yeah. What do your students? Because I teach college, so I get them when they're a little bit older, and I graduated from high school approaching 40 years ago. So not quite 40 years ago, but a long time ago. So it's been a long time since I've been around high school students. What do they like in terms of media, entertainment, and what do they want to do? I mean, what do they aspire to when they go away? But what do they like? What are they into?
So they're into a lot, but like
Brandon's waving his arms like they're 6 feet apart.
We have some kids who are like really like silly, and like they'll do like the funniest one. We have some who are like want to do the drama. and someone want to do it's just such a wide.
Sure,
Like,
but do they watch television? Do they go to the movies? Do they
So-
stream? What do they do?
So most of the students, like from what I've been looking, they're like all on their social media, Facebook, or like they're on YouTube listening to music videos, or just like any videos that their friend made. I believe they do watch TV. They because they do talk.
No.
They talk about TV shows. Brandon, no.
What do you think they talk about? What TV shows do they think?
I think they talk about like the ones that's on. I don't watch TV
They-
myself.
no,
I don't watch TV myself.
like they mention
Like Scandal or like.
no, they'll mention a scene of something, but like that's like what we on social media is like.
Yeah.
They I don't
They
think
got a
they're
clip.
watching like the whole show.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We had an argument the other day
They watch
about
sports, basketball.
no one has cable.
Oh
you know.
yeah. Well,
Like,
because
I don't have cable.
They're cutting the cords or
Yeah,
financially. I mean,
so
it's cost too much
It's
money.
like all I do is watch YouTube and Facebook. It's like,
or Netflix.
yeah, Netflix. That was a big one.
Yeah.
So, they have,
Netflix.
so having an internet connection is
It's-
critical.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole net neutrality argument about things like that. I mean, the internet to me is a utility. It's electricity, it's gas, it's water. I mean, you cannot compete. You cannot be a citizen in the world today without the internet.
Right.
Whether it's on your phone or some other way. But yeah, so they stream stuff on Netflix. That's a whole different world.
Yeah.
So what do your students aspire to do? What do they want to do when they get out of both high school and then maybe go to college and whatever? What do they want to do?
Well, I'm trying to open up for the ones that some students are like going to college, but they don't know what they want to major in. And I just try to like open the horizon. Like you can go like do film. Like it's really cool. Like I travel. I've been working in film since 2013. I've been working on set with Chicago PD. I was a DP for You're So Talented web series. It's a lot of job opportunities out there. And I just try to open that up to them. Like you can do this if you don't want to work a regular 9 to 5, or if you just if you don't find interest in anything else, this is something that's available to you, and you have resources. Free Spirit Media is a wonderful resource for students who are interested in trying to pursue film. They get your feet wet, and yeah, that's what I'd say.
That was right on.
Brandon.
Do your students go, and when you went, do they want to go to college? Is it something they even care about?
So North Lawndale pushes students. North
It is a
Lawndale.
college prep school.
It's
right?
it's a college prep school. It's a requirement to fill out at least 10 college applications for the seniors. So the seniors do talk about going to college, and they've talked about or either they want to go to a university, or if they just want to go to the Army, Navy, anything like Peace Corps. They talk about it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was just push big. They didn't have like this Phoenix Pack where they they pay for certain kids. They pay for kids to go to school, so it's a big thing. But the big thing is, you don't want them to be like me and go get a bachelor's degree and $23,000 of debt and then be like, yeah, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So it's really about like trying to help them understand what they want to do and then what's the best plan.
Yeah.
We want them to go and get into media and share their voice, but the big thing for us is that we want them to become productive citizens. And so how do we do that, and how do we use this gift that we have in order to do that?
What are some of the biggest challenges you have as teachers just teaching any way, and or challenges you have with your students? There is an element of teaching, and usually like college, teaching, you say 4 classes. You teach 4 classes a day, 5 days a week, and you're on a lunch break or something. I mean, you teach again in an hour, 15 minutes. So I've got a watch on it. But I mean, it's hard to teach, and it's hard to teach that many hours a day. I mean, I teach 3 hours 2 times a week. That's my semester.
Wow.
What are some of the challenges you have, both from a teaching standpoint and also mostly from a student standpoint? I mean,
common ones is just that every day, you're not feeling your best. Mondays.
Oh, they're the hardest.
It's a rough time for everybody. And
like the students come in, and we're like, I'm always like trying to be the happy one, kind of.
Mondays, she's not that happy.
And so when the students come in, they're all like, "It's Monday. We don't want to be here," and I'm just like, "It's Monday. Let's go."
It's Monday. They have attitude. Some adults have attitude. And it's like, I had one kid come tell me the other day, where you got this energy from? And I'm like, I could do mornings now. Once that like noon time comes, and I'm like, oh man, I'm tired now.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting drained, and so there's always the energy part. But too, like you got to deal with the kids.
They all have their different
They
personalities.
have their own personality. They have their own drama. They have their own drama.
Yeah.
And we have to be
considerate of everybody's thoughts, opinion, which is what we're supposed to do. Is just like some people, students might have like a bad day, while others are like on cloud nine, and we're just kind of balance it out. And most of the work that we do is group work. So if you have like a couple of students just like, I don't want to do this, why are we here? And you have the other students like, come on, we want to work, let's do this. It's trying to balance that out.
Yeah, you're a motivator, a psychiatrist, a parent, a
listener.
Teacher, listener, a mind reader. You hold so many different hats.
Yeah.
When you're teaching.
And also, your students are that much younger. So, when they go to college, they're independent. Even if they live at home, they've got, no one's telling them to go to school. They don't have to go to class if they don't have to go to class. It's just different in high school. You're seeing these people who are, then they must bring in their outside to the family. Stuff's going on in their family lives, their home life, and sometimes it's hard to get to school. It's just hard,
And that's what I mean. We have to be aware.
Yeah.
We have to be aware of that. Like, one student came in last Friday and just snapped on me, and I just laughed it off. Like, okay, you're having a bad day. She's a good kid, so for her to snap off,
I was like,
she's having a bad day.
Yeah.
But wet shoes would do that to you. So
Oh, it was raining really hard, and she had to walk to school, so like her shoes were like soaking wet.
And that'll ruin your day. It sounds like a joke, but it really does.
Yeah,
You're damp all day, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So she walks in the room and I said something smart.
No, you said you was like good morning, and then she was like, ain't no good morning.
Right.
And she sat down. I was just like,
no, like
this is how we're starting.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
Okay. So what we're gonna do? You okay?
Right. That's how it
you
went.
Just try to like manage it and everything. So those are tough. And then sometimes they're just not interested. Young people feel like they are the most talented and ever, and so things like planning is not necessary.
Oh yeah. When they're ready to shoot, and they're just like, oh, we know what we're gonna do. Let's just do it.
We're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and let's plan. And they're like, why?
Because you need to know what you're gonna say.
I won't say I know by heart.
No,
you really don't.
Because when it comes to editing, it's not gonna go right.
And so that's the big thing is the planning part. Because
they just want to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that goes on. That goes to college and goes beyond. It's all day. I remember when I was young. They had a pie chart, and it was a third, a third, a third. A third is pre-production, a third is production, a third is post-production, and it should be pretty close to that. You can't rush it.
And we have that set up as well. And
the trial and error.
It's like our pre-production. They're like dragging. Then it's like production day, and then like all four, and then post is like
dragging. It's just like how you guys are going to see it if you don't put it together.
Sure. So I asked a moment ago, what are some of the goals your students have, what they want to do? What about you guys personally, both as a teacher and perhaps as an artist as well? What do you want to do? Shay, you've got a long career ahead of you now. What do you hope to do both in the classroom and outside?
Outside, I just want to be like, I know it sounds cheesy or corny, but I just want to be successful. I want to be like the best woman camera operator ever, like on some kind of movie, some action movie, because I love action. Or I could just be like a little freelancer, a small local known freelancer.
She's going to be on Black Panther too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the cinematographer of Black Panther was a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
we actually watching behind the scenes today. And she was like, I want to be on that show.
Like,
That's pretty amazing. That's really great.
Yeah.
What about in the classroom? What do you want to do as a teacher?
See, that's the thing. I didn't even see myself like starting off with Free Spirit Media and just filming. I didn't even see myself as like giving back to my community or that I grew up in. I didn't even see myself teaching. So this is something new. This is like a big milestone for me. Teaching wise, I enjoy it, but I also enjoy like when the students are filming. I try not to take over because I'm like, you're doing it wrong. But so I'm just like,
they've got to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah. That's why.
In post, you show them, here's what you could do differently.
And it's so hard to be like, I try not to take over because I just want to be on camera. I just want to frame it up for them. I want to help them get their story told. But yeah.
A little frustrated when you see them doing it wrong. You're like, no, you don't.
Yeah. I mean, if they're not actually physically in danger or hurting themselves,
you
let them go, and they'll learn later.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'm a pro at that.
Man, Brandon sits back, you did that wrong. We got to reshoot. And I'm just like...
then they all been like, why we got to reshoot? Because it looks bad.
They're like, Mr. Brandon, you ain't even got to be like that.
So I guess my goal is to just inspire the next group of creatives who can, tell a story accurately of North Lawndale. I think North Lawndale, while it does have its problems, it has its beautiful parts. We are both, like I said, we're both products of North Lawndale, and while there were some things that were bad, there were a lot of good times. And if people really share that story and really tell the accurate story of the people of the community, that would be a beautiful thing for me and what made me want to get back into the school system in the first place.
That's great.
Awesome.
It's the truth.
Yeah. It feels good to be back in my high school, though. Like, after I graduated, I didn't really look back. I mean, I did, but I didn't. And then this position opened up, and like everybody at Free Spirit was like, "Shay, you should really try to like apply." And I was just like, "No," because like Brandon, I applied to a position and I got denied, and I was just like, "No." But then I tried it, and I was like, "Okay, yeah." And I got it. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm back." I didn't even know I was going to be back in North Lawndale, and I was just like, "I'm going to be teaching in the class I started in. That's cool."
Yeah. The funny about that, like, I was a freshman when the year that NLCP opened up.
Oh.
And so I remember back then, like, there wasn't a school on the west side that you really wanted to go to. And now here I am really like trying to make those differences where schools on the west side are okay, and I just remember those times. It's just funny because I remember, like, you wouldn't dare going to like schools, and NLCP was new, so they didn't have a reputation yet. So it's just, like I said, it's just really good to be able to come back into the community and really like help and really show people that, hey, here I am, I made it out, you can too. Yeah. And just really trying to put it out there. We show off everything Shay does because, we want them to see, like, you too can go to India, you too go to South Africa, you can do all these things.
Not trying to put me on a pedestal or anything like that.
No, you're not on a pedestal, but you're a role model.
Yeah.
And you need a role model.
But she's on the pedestal.
No, I'm not. Shut up, Brandon.
Yeah. So like she did it. There's things that we've done, and you can too. It's not impossible. And that's the biggest thing, that there is hopelessness a lot of times that they feel and they see, and we want to provide that spark of hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's where we end.
Right.
We want to provide that spark of hope. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you both very much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
That's it. That's the podcast. Thank you, Jeff McCarter, Brandon Johnson, Shay Rogers from Free Spirit Media for coming by. I really appreciate it. We're all busy. We're doing a bunch of things, and Shay and Brandon are hustling back there to get into a class they're about to teach this afternoon. 2 quick reminders. On April 21st, there's a screening and panel discussion in collaboration with WTTW Chicago at the Cultural Center, featuring Free Spirit Media, youth media, and producers. And then on May 31st, as Jeff mentioned when he was here, it's the Free Spirit Media annual fundraising party at the Ivy Room at Tree Studios, featuring a sneak peek of this year's Industry Pathways cohort film. Teaching the listeners can get a $5 ticket discount using the code FSMFAM. That's FSMFAM, as in Free Spirit Media. That's all for this week. Thanks for listening. Take care. It's now time for me to get a drink.